I'm Mary Ellen, the CEO of the Core Network, and it is my privilege to represent you and to welcome you this afternoon to the Core Network's 39th annual conference. It's hard to believe for me that this is my 15th conference, and that some of you in this room have been here much longer than that. In fact, I understand that 38 people here with us have been involved with the Core movement for more than 2 decades. I think it's safe to say that there is easily 1,000 years of combined experience here in this room today. That is amazing. My own story with the Core Network began in 2008. I was working for a national nonprofit supporting policies to make college more accessible and affordable. It was and still is a good cause and a great need. But I didn't feel that student loans and interest rates were my calling. Then, in March of that year, right around now, a colleague shared with me a job posting for a Director of Government Relations position, advocating for programs that provide youth and young adults with opportunities to advance their education, prepare for the workforce, and obtain in-demand job skills, all while improving their lives, the communities, and the environment. I couldn't imagine a more impactful job. Here, I thought, was my chance to make a difference. The first Core I visited after joining the Core Network was the work group in Camden, New Jersey. There, I was so impressed to see young people tending urban gardens, removing graffiti, and beautifying their community, while earning their high school diplomas and gaining marketable job skills. But perhaps the thing that struck me most was the genuine affection and concern between the Core members and the Core staff, as well as their commitment to something larger than themselves, to each other and to their community. Since then, I have visited dozens of Cores. I've seen Core members plant and tend urban farms to provide fresh produce in urban deserts, conduct energy audits, apply green roofs, install solar panels for low-income homeowners, repair bikes to provide alternative transportation, build tiny homes for the homeless, collect and process recycling, restore oyster beds, forests, and other natural habitat after disasters, build trails and campgrounds, and provide additional capacity for managing our public lands and waters. I could go on for hours talking about the wide variety of programs that I've visited, the vast range of project work I've seen, and the extensive diversity of the Core members that I have met. At first, explaining the diversity of our programs, projects, and participants was challenging. How do you sum up all of the things that Cores are and do in 2 or 3 sentences? But it is also one of our greatest strengths, in addition to the fact, of course, that Cores work. Nearly a century ago, this country was in crisis. As a result of the Great Depression, millions of Americans were out of work and living in poverty. Due to industrialization and population growth, the nation was experiencing rapid resource depletion, resulting in environmental degradation and increased natural disasters. In response, President Eleanor Roosevelt worked with Congress to stand up the Civilian Conservation Corps, which provided jobs and economic opportunities to millions of young men, preserved and protected some of our most critical natural resources, and built much of the outdoor infrastructure we still use today. And despite its flaws, the most glaring of which was its lack of gender and racial equity, the CCC is still viewed as one of the most impactful federal programs in our nation's history. Right now, our country faces similar challenges to those experienced by past generations. The effects of climate change are upon us and will only get exponentially dire, bringing bigger floods, bigger fires, hotter summers, more severe droughts, and more damaging storms. And as many of you know all too well, the worst effects of climate change are and will continue to be felt by communities that have already faced years of disinvestment and environmental justice. There is an urgent need to make our landscapes and our communities resilient. Today, not tomorrow, we need to invest in building a climate-ready workforce, people with skills in clean energy, green building, resource management, disaster response, and more. And I am thrilled that the Biden administration is leading the way. 3 years ago, during his first week in office, President Biden announced his intention to establish a domestic climate corps to address the environmental issues facing our nation. In September, the administration officially launched the American Climate Corps with an intention to engage at least 20,000 youth and young adults in its first year. This past December, 7 federal departments, including several longtime partners of Corps like AmeriCorps, the Department of Interior, Agriculture, and Commerce, as well as new partners like the Departments of Energy and Environmental Protection Agency, signed an interagency memorandum of understanding calling for the coordination and expansion of participating core programs in partnership under a common framework to ensure a new generation of workers are given the training and tools to enter high-quality jobs in the emerging clean and climate-resilient economies. Just 2 weeks ago, President Biden recognized the American Climate Corps as a signature initiative of his administration and committed to tripling the ACC in his State of the Union address. And last week, the administration further signaled its commitment to the ACC by including additional funding for the initiative in the President's FY 2025 budget request and urging Congress to make future investments in the program of $8 billion. I hope you all feel as excited about these developments as I do. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity for our Corps, our partners, and the thousands of young people we collectively engage every year to build on our existing infrastructure and unparalleled experience to impact climate change, help develop a climate-ready workforce, and provide opportunities to young people and communities that have historically been left behind. This is our chance to make a difference at scale. I know you have concerns and questions, like how will the ACC impact your programs? What will it mean for your Corps members? How should you talk about the ACC in more conservative areas of the country? Is it sustainable? You also, based on your vast experience, have ideas regarding how the ACC should be implemented in your communities and nationally. When you registered for the conference, we asked you what you would like to see from a national climate initiative. Many of you focused on the nuts and bolts of running a large-scale initiative. You want to see collaboration on recruitment and data collection, ways for programs to share training materials and best practices, credentials for Corps members, and pathways to jobs. Many of you stress the need to focus on climate, environmental, and economic justice. You want to see programs centered on and created by and centered on the BIPOC communities that are on the front lines of climate change. You want to see a climate corps that is locally operated and youth-led. You want livable wages for participants. Some of you address the need for additional resources, for program capacity, Corps member support, and the ability to access funds quickly. And last, but certainly not least, you want an awesome mascot. I love that. We're taking ideas. In all seriousness though, you have a lot of great ideas. Collectively, you here in this room have much of the knowledge and experience necessary to make the ACC happen. And each and every one of us has a role to play in its success. And if I may be so bold as to speak from my own experience, which is not as long as some, but significant nonetheless, I would like to offer a few thoughts. And I have a captive audience, so. To our longstanding partners, like DOI, USDA, and NOAA, we need you to identify funding sources that will grow existing programs and increase ongoing project work. We also need you to get creative, like the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and identify funding to support new kinds of projects in new communities, like the Working Lands Climate Corps. To our newer partners, like DOE and EPA, and hopefully DOT and HUD coming soon, You are critical to the success of the American Climate Corps in urban communities. Without your contributions, many communities and populations, perhaps those who need it most, may not have an opportunity to participate in and benefit from the American Climate Corps. I urge you to look at funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill and the Inflation Reduction Act for funding that can support, directly or indirectly, ACC programs and participants. AmeriCorps and DOL, we need you to ensure that ACC members have access to sustainable stipends and wages, supportive services, and training and credentials that lead to good jobs in the rapidly growing green economy. To my Corps family, each of you represents an organization that has a unique mission and model. You utilize different funding sources, work with different partners, do different kinds of project work. You work in very different communities and engage Corps members from different races, ethnicities, ages, gender identities, socioeconomic status, and education level. Our Corps Members of the Year represent the significant diversity of our Corps members. In this case, your uniqueness is our strength, and it is what we need to make the ACC a success. Climate change is a problem that does not discriminate based on geography or ideology. While it might look different in different parts of the country and impact some communities more directly and significantly than others, it will eventually impact all of us if it hasn't already. That is why every one of us has a role to play in the solution. Therefore, I encourage my Corps family to embrace your uniqueness. Find your niche and make a difference where you can. But also recognize and appreciate the strengths that your brothers and sisters in the Corps family bring to the solution. They might be located across the country, in the mountains or on the coast, in a forest, in the desert, in the city, or on a farm. They might be helping young people complete high school or a master's degree. But they and you are all necessary to the whole of the Corps family and to the success of the American Climate Corps. Together, we can build an ACC for all of America. Together, we can make a difference at scale. That is why I joined the Corps Network 16 years ago, and why I imagine you joined the Corps family too. Yes, there are lots of uncertainties. Yes, there are some risks. There are some of the same uncertainties and risks faced by the architects of the original CCC, but the risk of doing nothing is far greater. We are collectively being called to take this once-in-a-century opportunity before us to make an impact at scale, so that 100 years from now, people will look back at the ACC and the Corps family and say that it changed the trajectory of our country. So I ask you all to join me, our federal partners, in leaning into this incredible opportunity that we as a family can embrace together. And with that,